like. Hello. Welcome. So I was doing my live Bible study, and we were going over Daniel 18, and 19 is where we've gotten into. And I came to Daniel 19, verse 5. Yes. Okay. So this is something that I cannot understand. Um, the left that purports to be about women's rights and women's choices is aborting approximately 600,000 women every year, because we have approximately 1.2 million abortions a year. We'll get into that. It's like 1,146,000 or something. So if you just do the math, about 600 women on 600,000 women are killed every year, but they talk about wanting to be pro-woman. But here's a verse that got me set off into this. I was talking about this. This is Jeremiah 19, verse 4, going into verse 5. Because they have forsaken me, and have estranged this place, and have burned incense in it unto other gods. Okay. Well, when did we forsake God? Was it when we took prayer out of school? Was it when we took the Ten Commandments out of the courthouse? Was it when we tried to take Under God out of our anthem? Any one of those situations that is brought up would probably suffice. One second. As far as for a reason that God might say that we have forsaken him. Okay. How do we estrange this place from him? Could that have been by building false temples to false prophets? I don't know if you can tell, but I rearranged my area and I got rid of the ridiculous record emblem on my videos. And where did we burn incense to these false gods? Is it in these temples, these abortion clinics? Unto other gods, whom neither they nor their fathers have known, nor the kings of Judah, and have filled this place with the blood of innocents. Uh-oh. Here we go. This is where it starts talking about what we are getting ready to talk about tonight. How we know what the place that estranged us is now, because it tells not only did they burn incense unto false gods in it, but what did they do? They spilled the blood of innocence. What is more innocent than a child? An unborn one at that. Completely sinless. 5. They have built also the high places of Baal, to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto Baal. Calls it out by name, which I commanded not, nor spake it, neither came it into my mouth, into my mind. Therefore, behold, the day comes, saith the Lord, that the days come, saith the Lord, that this place shall no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. Okay. These two verses sent me into a little bit of a rant in my head and a little bit of a bothered state, because for me, it is so apparent what truly happened. Give me a second. I'm going to change my plug from my computer to my phone. There we go. It sent me into this rant because I know what the left has done. I know that they brought in abortion and contraception and birth control as this empowerment. Oh, you can go out and sin and won't have any consequences. Right? It's okay. Don't worry. No consequences. But there are consequences for everything. Whether it is the mental destruction of people by giving away so many parts of their soul to different people, whether it is catching some disease, which we'll see in some of these quotes from her, that she specifically talks about the heritable diseases. Whether it is the loss of life by aborting a child, it does not matter the sin, there is consequence. And no pills, no surgeries will change the consequence. It will not eradicate it, I should say. It might change what consequence you feel, when you feel it, how you may feel it. But it does not eradicate it. There's only one thing that eradicates our sins, and that's the blood of Jesus. And that's full stop, end of story. That's the end of that tale. That's the only thing that redeems us. But, and there is redemption. There is redemption. I believe that this is only propagated because of the lies that are told in it. They say that, oh, it's a fetus, when all mammals have fetal stage of development. Technically, an eagle in the egg is in its fetal stage of development. So is a chicken in the egg. That is a stage of development. But it got me onto this thing about Margaret Sanger, because the left loves Miss Sanger. Oh, how they preach her praises. I have a couple articles from the left that I will read some of to show you how they try to portray her. And then we'll read some quotes from her. And we'll listen to a video of her speaking in her own words. I have not listened to this video of her speaking in her own words. But it's an audio recording of her from the 60s, from my understanding. And it is a discussion on her attendance in a Klan's rally. Okay. I had to dive in here. So this first article is Margaret Sanger in her own words from Church and State. And I'm going to take us down to the About Us section of this real quick. Church and State highlights the importance of secular government. Okay, so do you just in that, we cover church-state separation, Christian right, population, Christian right, the Christian right, population, futurism, atheism, longevity, and other issues. The first sentence tells it all. All right, of who this comes from. Now listen to how they cover for her. Miriam Reed presents the most dramatic episodes of Margaret Sanger's dramatic life in a compelling and thought-provoking way, with a vivid commentary that constitutes a biography in itself. Reed has assembled many of Margaret Sanger's most meaningful writings, speeches, letters, and diary entries, so as to create a biographical autobiography. Reed makes Margaret Sanger the far from perfect heroine of her own story come alive, a must-read for students of women's history. Miriam Reed's intriguing selection, and that was from Alexander Sanger, Chair, International Planned Parenthood Council, New York. Want you to Alexander Sanger. She wasn't important in her family members. Miriam Reed's intriguing selections from Sanger's papers and correspondence brings Sanger back to life in all her brilliance, passion, power, foibles, and eccentricities. Gloria Felt, the President. Invaluable collection of Sanger's seminal, intelligent, and compassionate writings. Compassionate writings. Oh, we'll get into some of that. Compassionate. Well, I got some quotes from you. We'll see how compassionate you think this is. Accompanied by Reed's vibrant and illuminating commentary and a charming introduction by Sanger's granddaughter, Margaret Sanger Lamp. Donna Seaman, book list. Okay. This is Sanger right here. Oh, looking at another baby. Look at how she's looking at that baby to kill it. Oh, you came too late. You just came too late. But not really in her eyes. You listen to the quotes. Not in her eyes. The best thing they can do for their little ones is to kill them. That's a direct quote from Margaret Sanger. Hold on. The most merciful thing that the large family does to one of its infant members, is to kill it. Women in the New Race, page 62. It's one of the most meaningful things you can do as a member of a family. Oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. That's so beautiful. I am sorry that you lost the other one, but that is very beautiful. They make her, yes, yes, but they make her out to be this heroine. Let's go back and read that section again at the top, because that just makes you sick, doesn't it? Whenever you go back then after listening to just that first quote from hers, and they call her, where is it? The far from perfect heroine of her own story come alive. In her brilliance, passion, power, foibles, and eccentricities. So your evilness is an eccentricity. Your hatred of children is an eccentricity. So she was one of 11 children. And her mom had a rough time of it, apparently. I don't think that any of her siblings killed themselves. And I think once we delve a little bit deeper into this, you're going to see why none of them did. Because this was targeted. This was a targeted thing. It wasn't meant for everyone. It was meant for the less than desirables, as we'll see. The poor, the colored, the disfigured. Yeah. So let's get back into their praise of her, because before I take us through the truth of it, we have to see how they make her. And we've seen a little, but we'll read this first thing. This is the First World Population Conference. And I haven't even read any of this. I just found this website, knew it was a left-wing website from the name. I hadn't even gone down to their about them section yet. I just knew, I could tell, I could sense the evil in the way they named it. Church and State News. Do you have a problem with God? Because it seems like you might have a little, not positive. I'm thinking with the success of 2 international conferences behind her, secure financially through the good graces of Noah Slee, her 2 sons satisfactorily in college, the American Birth Control League apparently on track, the Clinical Research Bureau open since 1923 under the secure direction of Dr. Hannah Stone, Sanger was free to devote her energies to what would prove to be an altruistic adventure. In the pivot of civilization, Sanger had sought herself to put birth control on a scientific basis. Now she fought for birth control, the backing of the scientists themselves. Her approach was politic, to assemble the most prestigious researchers in social science, demographics, economics, and biology, and they could consider scientifically the population increase and its possible threat to world peace and the world economy. For not only was the world population growing explosively, but Germany, Japan, and Italy were demanding that their people propagate, and sounding unsettling growls about Lebensraum. Okie dokie. I'm not gonna lie here. Do not know this word. More tools. the territory that a state or nation believes is needed for its natural development, especially associated with Nazi Germany. Okay. Well, that kind of makes sense. All right. Yet no one seemed to want to discuss population growth, certainly not the League of Nations, whose purview it obviously was. The economic conference, which I have just attended in Geneva, failed to discuss the population question, and it causes a great deal of comment and much criticism, noted Sanger in May 1927. I want to point this out. These elites have been meeting in Switzerland for over 100 years. She's American. How'd you get there? Flew, probably, right? Oh, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder who this Slee is, right? I haven't looked him up yet. But Noah Slee. I'm going to do a quick Google search on him. We'll see who he is. He's interesting. All that I'm getting is this New Zealand guy. Interesting. We'll delve into him later. But back to what we are discussing. The economic conference, which I have just attended in Geneva, failed to discuss the population question, and it caused a great deal of comment and much criticism, noted Sanger. But by the time she wrote this, she already had in motion her plans to bring to every doorstep of the League of Nations an awareness of the population problem. And why is the population a problem? The population back then was like 4 billion. It's grown almost like 6 billion in this 100 years. So what was the issue? It would seem that the population growth could not be sensibly discussed without, at some point, in some way, including a discussion of birth control. Nevertheless, only with the understanding that birth control would not be discussed would most of the eminent scientists, particularly the European scientists, consider attending Sanger's First World Population Conference. It should be noted that this conference, which met from August 31st to September 3rd, 1927 in Geneva, Switzerland, was the first world conference ever to deal with the population issue, in that it was organized almost single-handedly by her, a woman, and that Sanger did so aware of the male prejudice she faced. Aware also of the serious need for the population problem to be investigated. Aware of the need for world education on this issue. Hoping against hope that these scientists investigated all aspects of this serious problem, that birth control might possibly be considered relevant thereto. In the latter regard, she was to be disappointed. During the conference, the papers of the two speakers came perilously near mentioning the forbidden word Malthusianism. But I'm guessing that it means abortion, but we will see. Malthusianism is a theory that population growth is potentially exponential, while the growth of food supply and other resources is linear. So it states that the food would stay the same, the amount of food growth would stay the same, population would outstrip it, people would starve to death. Okay. But as for birth control, it was edged about like a bomb which might explode at any minute. This was scarcely a surprise, as the date of the conference had approached. Newspapers were carrying such remarks. So, this is what they're saying about her. Okay. This is what they're saying she was about. She was trying to bring birth control to the world. That's what they're saying. Okay? That's what they're saying. That's what, it sounds good. It sounds good, but I'm going to go back and we're going to read another quote of hers. Okay, we read the first one from Women in the New Race, page 62. The most merciful thing that the large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. Not one of its fetus members, one of its infant members. This is how crazy this woman was. This next one is from Pivot of Civilization, page 187. Eugenics shows us that we are paying for and even submitting to the dictates of an ever-increasing, unceasingly spawning class of human beings who never should have been born at all. She was talking about minorities. She was talking about black people and brown people in America, specifically. And of the retard. Literally. Her words. These are them. Let's do the next one. From Letter to Dr. Clarence J. Gamble, 12/10/39. We do not want word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the Planned Parenthood trained black minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of the more rebellious members. If any of them wily blacks ever figure out that we're trying to kill them, we'll send out this guy, this black guy that we've been paying. We'll send him out. And he'll dance for us and tell him, oh, don't you worry. Don't you worry. This is good for us to kill our kids. Right? That's what she just said in that letter. That's what she just got done saying. How can people believe that anything that came from that woman is good when these are the things that she says? Now, I have some other stories on her that we're going to get into. One of the first ones we're going to get into comes from the University of Chicago. Margaret Singer, ambitious feminist and racist eugenicist. This one from the University of Chicago, I thought it was going to be more liberal. It seems to literally play pretty straight down the middle, which I was kind of surprised at. But from what I read, it did seem that way. Now, I'll be honest. The beginning talks about her early life and stuff, which sexuality in the United States of America is not the same as seen in the 1800s. Today, a large proportion of women in the country begin utilizing a form of contraception at a young age in order to enjoy the pleasures of sex without worrying about having to halt one's education or career in order to be a mother. However, in the 1800s and early 1900s, use of contraceptives was less common due to laws prohibiting the distribution of contraceptives, simple information about contraceptives via mail or in other non-approved settings. And she's renowned for trying to change that. That's how it starts, and it talks about her early career. Now, this is where it starts getting into it. So I guess you could say they still buried the lead. Sorry. However, there were far more important inspirations behind Sanger's work than quick Google searches delve into. Specifically, Sanger's writings shed light on underlying motives of Sanger's in her movement towards family planning, eugenics, and racism. Sanger strongly backed the field of eugenics and saw birth control as an innovative and safe way to medically allow for limiting the abilities of certain populations to reproduce. Her eugenics beliefs also found themselves rooted in race, greatly affecting African American populations in America, and furthering beliefs that people of color were lesser than or appropriate for being used as test subjects for medical advancements. Both of these belief systems drove Sanger's fight for widespread, easy access to birth control in America. So, this lady was so hateful that she believed that the only way that we can stop these minorities is if we sterilize them or give them sterilants or allow them to kill their children legally. And we'll make it okay for them. We'll make it okay for them. We'll talk to them. We'll convince them they're dumb. So she says. She says in a lot of her writings is how dumb they are. I'm going to jump us. We're going to listen in on her, Margaret Sanger, and the Ku Klux Klan, her account of her lecture to the Ku Klux Klan.
And the Ku Klux Klan. Here is Margaret Sanger's account. Margaret Sanger and the Ku Klux Klan. Here is Margaret Sanger's account of her trip to talk to the Ku Klux Klan from pages 366 to 367 of Margaret Sanger, an autobiography, which is a 1971 reprint by Dover Publications, Incorporated, of the 1938 original published by W. W. Norton and Company. The text reads as follows. I accepted an invitation to talk to the women's branch of the Ku Klux Klan at Silver Lake, New Jersey, one of the weirdest experiences I had in lecturing. My letter of instruction told me what train to take, to walk from the station 2 blocks straight ahead, then 2 to the left. I would see a sedan parked in front of a restaurant. If I wished I could have 10 minutes for a cup of coffee or bite to eat, because no supper would be served later. I obeyed orders implicitly, walked the blocks, saw the car, found the restaurant, went in and ordered some cocoa, stayed my allotted 10 minutes, then approached the car hesitatingly and spoke to the driver. I received no reply. She might have been totally deaf as far as I was concerned. Mustering up my courage, I climbed in and settled back. Without a turn of the head, a smile, or a word to let me know I was right, she stepped on the self-starter. For 15 minutes we went around the streets. It must have been towards 6 in the afternoon. We took this lonely lane and that through the woods, and an hour later pulled up in a vacant space near a body of water beside a large, unpainted, varnished building. My driver got out, talked with several other women, then said to me severely, "Wait here. We will come for you." She disappeared. More cars buzzed up the dusty road into the parking place. Occasionally men dropped wives who walked hurriedly and silently within. This went on mystically until night closed down and I was alone in the dark. A few gleams came through chinks in the window curtains. Even though it was May, I grew chillier and chillier. After 3 hours I was summoned at last and entered a bright corridor filled with wraps. As someone came out of the hall, I saw through the door dim figures parading with banners and illuminated crosses. I waited another 20 minutes. It was warmer and I did not mind so much. Eventually the lights were switched on, the audience seated itself, and I was escorted to the platform, was introduced, and began to speak. Never before had I looked into a sea of faces like these. I was sure that if I uttered one word, such as abortion, outside the usual vocabulary of these women, they would go off into hysteria. And so my address that night had to be in the most elementary terms, as though I were trying to make children understand. In the end, through simple illustrations, I believed I had accomplished my purpose. A dozen invitations to speak to similar groups were proffered. The conversation went on, and when we were finally through, it was too late to return to New York. Under a curfew law, everything in Silver Lake shut at 9 o'clock. I could not even send a telegram to let my family know whether I had been thrown in the river or was being held incommunicado. It was nearly 1 before I reached Trenton, and I spent the night in a hotel.
Okay. So, that was a reading. I apologize. That was one of the audiobook readings.
So, I've never had a boyfriend, but I have 100 exes.
What is going on?
The way that works is, you know, like the first 2 weeks when you're seeing a guy, and it's kind of exciting because you're like, does he know my last name? Will we ever see each other again?
What is this? I apologize about that. It continued to play. Trying to distract us from our point. So, that they just read from one of her books about the Klan meeting. And then she said that she was invited to 12 more events. And not only did they say that, she said she decided to stay then. Right? Oh, I'll just stay with the Klan. It's okay. Now, if you were down there and you were preaching, or you were, you know, something maybe one could understand, but you're down there participating, using, because you know these guys are powerful in that area, right? And they'll give you money. And they will let you win. They will help you to get your laws passed. So, this next page is abortion statistics. Now, this is a sad page for me. I dislike this page. It needs to be shown, but I very much dislike this page. Okay, this page has a lot. All right, this is the abortion statistics for per year in the United States. Significant transformation following Supreme Court's Dobbs decision. Oh, crapola. This is the. Well, that thing is just not going to stay down, I guess. So 1,141,830 abortions in 2024. That's 95,200 abortions a month. 63% were medication. 25% were over telehealth. Hey, doc, I messed up and I need an abortion. Can you prescribe it for me? That's as much as that telehealth can be. They can't do a physical exam. They can't touch you. They can't see if there's any other reason why you might be feeling this way, or if you just honestly don't believe that that's a human life. I want to pose the question, and I'll do it in the chat. Out. I lost my train of thought on that. Apologize, guys. I'll go back to the numbers. Yes, it is sickening. What do you guys believe is when somebody is alive? You know, like legally, what do you believe is the reason somebody's considered alive? Is it because they have brain activity? Is it because they have a heartbeat? Is it a combination? I'll tell you. When you have brain activity but no heartbeat, you are a vegetable, or you're on a heart bypass. When you have a heartbeat but no brain activity, you're a vegetable. Yes, it is from conception. But for argument's sake, if it was only from when you had brain activity and a heartbeat, that would still be before the first missed period. Yes. Because if you get brain activity by 21 days after conception, and you get a heartbeat after 7 days after conception, you have fingerprints, you have your own DNA. You could be described as an assailant in a crime before the first missed period, before you would take the chemical abortion. So, how crazy is that? Yet it is legal for you to kill that living being. Now, back to the stats, because this is where it starts getting into the realities of the system that Margaret Sanger created. Okay, because who did she want to get rid of, right? She wanted to get rid of the minorities. She wanted to get rid of the undesirables, as she liked to call them in public, because she didn't want to be considered a racist, and she didn't want the blacks to know what she was up to, because that would expose her plan, and then thus defeat it, because who would willingly, even Martin Luther King Jr. praised Margaret Sanger for her support of the black community. Did you know that? Martin Luther King Jr. received the Planned Parenthood Award. Anyways, I just found that out today. That really, really bothered me. Abortions per 1,000 live births. 199 abortions per 1,000 live births. And this is just in America. 11.2 abortions per 1,000 women. Okay, that's out of the total population. That's not minorities. That's just the total women, okay? This is where it gets crazy. So what do you think the number for white women is per 1,000? Yeah. So early gestational, so before 9 weeks, it says 70%. Before 6 weeks, 40%. All right. Black women per 1,000, 24.4 versus 5.7 for the white community. So did Margaret Sanger get, and 21.2%, 1/5 of all abortions are Hispanic women. So 20% are Hispanic. It's not stating what the black percentage is, but we know that they have 4.3 times as many abortions as white women. So, yes, this is really true. This is actual U.S. statistics. These statistics are from theworlddata.com is where these are from. It's sources from the CDC, Abortion Surveillance Report, 2022, and the Society for Family Planning, hashtag WeCount2024, and the Guttmacher Institute 2024, and KFF Analysis 2025. Okay. Women in their 20s, they're almost 60% of all abortions. Okay, now here's where we get into the demographics, okay? So under the age of 15, only 0.2%. 0.4 abortions per 1,000 women. And what the heck? Well, this doesn't make sense. Okay, so only 0.4 per 1,000. But it's 812 per 1,000 live births. There's 812 abortions for girls under 15 per 1,000 live births. That is insane. So there's almost an equal amount of children aborted by girls under the age of 15. Yes. Oh, the Martin Luther King thing? Oh, yes. Yes, I saw a quote from him. It was in one of their articles. I will see if I can't pull it back up. I think I ended up exiting out of that article because it hurt my feelings so bad. But I know I can find it again. But back to these. So percentage of total abortions. 40%, 39.5% of total abortions are black. 429 at per 1,000 live births. Hispanics, 21.2%. 10.5 out of 1,000 women, and 146 per 1,000 births. Race other is another 7.3%. So even though whites make up 60% of the country, they make up less than 1/3 of the total amount of abortions. I would say that Margaret Sanger's plan worked out. I do not want any abortions. Do not get me wrong. I am an abolitionist. I believe in abolishing abortion. But what I am saying is this right here should make everyone sick. Look at this other part. If you are married, 12.6% of abortions come from married. That's it. Should there be any? No. But there is. And I would bet a majority of those are considered health related. I'm not positive, but that would be my bet, is that the majority of those are health related and or cheating related. Unmarried status, 87.7. 90% almost. 90% almost are unmarried. That is very sad. 8% of them have had 3 or more abortions. 36% have had 1 or 2 more abortions. And 56% have had none. Previous live births, 16% if they've had 3 or more. 44% if they've had 1 or 2. And 41% with none. But as you see, first of all, this under 15 number, we shouldn't be having this number at all. But the fact that 812 out of 1,000 are killed, that's scary. It's almost a 1-to-1. And abortions damage women's reproductive ability. Now, this is the most sickening part to me. 18 to 21 weeks, 9,200. 9,200. 1.5%. So 7 to 9 weeks. We'll look at babies at 7 to 9 weeks. I'll pull up some photos. 10 to 13 weeks. 87,000. 14 to 15 weeks. 18,400. 9,800. 9,200. Greater than 21 weeks. Or less than 21 weeks. 6,700. That is disgusting. It is insane that we live in a place that allows people to go kill their children. It just... Okay. No, I need to go back. Sorry, I'm looking for the photos. No. Sorry. All right. So this is 20 weeks. 1, 2, 3. Day 1. Day 1.5. Day 2. Day 3. Day 4. 1 month. By 1 month, you have a brain, you have hands, you have fingers. By 1 to 2 months in there. By 8 weeks. By 2 months for sure. That's the full 8 weeks. That's 4 to 8 weeks. 8 weeks. This is 12 weeks. This here is 16 weeks. What do we say they killed? 16 weeks. And then this is 20 weeks. Children can live outside of the womb at 20 weeks old. Yes. And yes, they have been wrong. And they do push abortions on people. I just did the video on the Greenlanders and what they were doing to them and how they were forcing contraception and forcing abortions and stealing their children. So, yeah, this is not new of them. Now, I'm going to pull up this. This is a map of all the Planned Parenthoods. Where is the majority of the Planned Parenthoods? If you take a look on this map here, they are littered around minority areas. Major hubs where minorities live, right? All the big cities. There's thousands of them in the big cities. There's everywhere. It's almost like that's what she wanted. It's almost like that was her plan, right? Like her plan was to their plan was to do this all along. To get the minorities to believe that it was okay to kill themselves, to kill their future. Okay, so we determined that 70% of abortions were carried out by minorities. Okay. Now 1.143 million, right? 1,141,000. Hold on. So 1,143,000. I'm just make it even. Okay, times 70%. That's 800,100 children, minority children a year since they got this passed, since they legalized it. That's like 70 years since the 60s. Verify them. Not correct, but when was abortion legalized? It was Roe versus Wade, right? $1973. Okay. 73. So we're at 2026. So that's 53 years. So let's do the simple math. So times 53. That's 42,400,000 and 405,300. This is the math. Here's the proof. Okay. I really think that is what you would call a genocide right? I mean, that's more than the Jews that were killed in the Holocaust. And we didn't even include the white babies. Didn't even include the white babies. This is what I would call a genocide of our country. In the same amount of time, you saw the numbers. You saw what the amount of births per 1,000 was. In the same amount of time that we've had all of these abortions, the black community in America today is only 30-some million. I want you to think about that. I'm going to pull it up now for sure. Okay. Slightly off. It says 51.63 million people identify as black alone. Okay, so 51.63 million. All right. Now we're going to delve directly into their exact number now. Right? So I'll pull that up for you. This is black U.S. population in the census. And when you guys see this, this is from Black Demographics, theworlddata.com. 51.63 million. All right. And now we're going to go delve directly into the actual stat. Of course, that just died on me again. My wireless mic or wireless mouse just died on me. All right. 39.5% of total abortions. We're going to go to the exact number. Okay. So 1,141,830 times 39.4. Oh, nope. Times 0.39. Really? 394. There we go. Really? Okay, of course I did. 1,141,800 times 449,869.2 children a year times 53 years. 23,843,067 children. $51.63 million. Okay. So minus 51.63 million. So almost 50% of their current population they killed in the last 53 years. Almost 50% of their current population they killed in the last 53 years. What kind of insanity do you live in where you kill off half of the population of one group? It's insane. It's insane to me. And then they praise the woman who got them allowed to kill their children, even though she did it because she hated who they are. It is very, very evil. And the truth of the matter is, we have to fight this evil. We can't allow this to stand. God will not allow us to stand if we keep allowing this evil in our country. He will smite us, rightfully so. This is heinous, and the lie that it is not a human needs to end. Rights for all from conception. No exemptions, no exceptions. You know what the thing is? Do you know who really gets away with it when a child is raped and then they have an abortion? The pedophile. Because he doesn't have to pay the consequence, does he? They're going to test the dead fetus. They're going to get rid of it. They're going to sell the DNA and all the stem cells that they can to all these companies that want to make stem cell therapies for the elites so they can bathe in the blood of children, in the blood of the innocents, so they can inject it into their foreheads and their cheeks like some witch from the Middle Ages. With their sorceries, their science, so-called. This is a holy war. Yes. Yes. Oh, so true. And body parts for Satan's youth. When I figure out how I can put that up on my screen pin message. Does that put it on the? Do you guys see it on your screen now? They do that right? Yes, they are. I almost want to pull up James O'Keefe's Project Veritas video. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm beginning to learn how to actually run this thing, kind of like a semi-professional, I guess. Thank you for sticking with me throughout all this. You know, I've almost hit 100 subscribers. Thank you so much. I think you've been a big part of that, Miss Rana. Yeah, and welcome in whoever just came in. The thing that's crazy to me about it is this needs to be seen by our fellow Americans, it needs to be seen by those who are affected by it. They talk about slavery as if it was a genocide of the black community. And don't get me wrong, I'm not praising slavery. But what I'm getting is, during slavery, it went from 400,000 black Americans to over 14 million that were freed, right? And we didn't import them, okay? So it was not a genocide. In the same amount of time almost that they've been freed as they've been enslaved, they've killed more their brothers and sisters than the white man ever could. $440,000 a year. And that's not the ones that are getting gunned down in the streets. It's the ones that are being gunned down in the bellies. They're being ripped to shreds in the bellies. I just don't know. You know, I just am unsure how to get it out there. This fact that this lady is somehow praised among everybody. I mean, first of all, look at this picture. With her mouth covered. She's so oppressed, isn't she? Getting flown around. Being flown around all over the world in the 1920s. Now, we're going to read some of her eugenics writings. For one, Sanger was a strong proponent, and this is from University of Chicago. This Sanger was a strong proponent of eugenics, and many of her writings demonstrated the clear link she saw between controlling reproduction of certain groups and birth control. Sanger believed that the country was suffering greatly due to uncontrolled reproduction, specifically the unstable majority of the feeble-minded people living in city slums, overridden with disease, poverty, and other struggles. At the time, it was thought that feeble-mindedness was associated with abnormally high rates of fertility. She's saying that idiots are more fertile. That's what she's saying. People with retardation are more fertile. She was specifically discussing which she described as a biological menace. And many believe that the reproduction of feeble-minded people would only result in pauperism or insanity in the following generations. Because of the Sanger and many others turned towards contraceptives to fight this emergency in order to lessen the burden on and protect the intelligence of the community as a whole. Oh, let us kill your babies so you guys won't be so dumb. If you have so many babies, you won't be able to get an education and become smart like us. You've got to kill your babies so that you can end up being smart. Yes. She really did think that she was that big. She really thought that she was something. So much so that she could just tell you to kill your child. Your infant. That's the quote that one of the quotes that I find the most sickening, the most merciful thing that the large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. Women in the New Race, page 62. You know, we've only read the first three. Let's go ahead and read one of our other ones. This one's from Pivot of Civilization. Every single case of inherited defect, every malformed child, every congenitally tainted human being brought into this world is of infinite importance to that poor individual, but is of scarcely less importance to the rest of us and to all of us, all of our children who must pay in one way or another for these biological and racial mistakes. What? How is your child paying if I have a deformed kid? How is your child paying if I have a mixed child? Explain. This one comes from Pivot of Civilizations, page 177. It is the representative of this grade of intelligence who may destroy our liberties, and who may thus be the most far-reaching peril to the future of civilization. It's important points to remember. Margaret Sanger opposed blacks, Jews, and Italians and believed that they should not reproduce. In fact, she believed that they shouldn't have the liberty to decide whether to reproduce. She thought they should be forcefully contraceived, given contraceptives forcefully, or sterilized. Margaret Sanger devised a strategy of selling her eugenics plan to black pastors in order to win support in the black community, like Martin Luther King. Faye Walton, former president of Planned Parenthood, said Sanger was an American pioneer in the truest and noblest self-sacrificing sense. Sanger's memory is honored throughout the world by men and women who understand her monumental achievement for humanity. Yeah, by all the Klansmen that she loved to hang out with. I'm sure they do remember her. I'm sure they do remember. The Klansmen probably remember her quite fondly. If she was only just a little bit better, we wouldn't have any of them now. Man, I guess you could only get them to kill half their children. I just struggle with that. Martin Luther King. This is from Church and State. And this is a quote from Martin Luther King. There's no human circumstance more tragic than the persisting existence of a harmful condition for which a remedy is available. Family planning to relate population to world resources is possible, practical, and necessary. That's an excerpt from his speech, Family Planning, a special and urgent concern upon accepting Planned Parenthood Federation of America Margaret Sanger Award, May 5th, 1966. So Malcolm X was friends with the Nazis, the American Nazis, the American Nazi Party, and Martin Luther King was friends with Margaret Sanger, was at least aligned with her organization. Why is it that the two people that are most propped up in the modern day black community are these two men who were in bed with race haters? It's promoting hating of yourself. How could you build yourself into a strong community? How can you be promoting unity and growth in a community if you're allying with people who want your destruction? Jesus said, a house divided amongst itself cannot stand. How can you call me Beelzebub and say I cast out Beelzebub? There are true heroes of Black America. Frederick Douglass is one of the best examples. George Washington Carver. Oh, there's one that sat behind Charlie Kirk's desk, and I can't remember his name, and it's driving me nuts. And he was from the turn of the century. Hopefully he'll come back to me. Thomas Sowell. It is so hard to believe. It's so hard to believe that they were able to infiltrate so deep. But what did Malcolm X say about the white liberal? It's the most dangerous animal, he said. For unlike the wolf, that you know what its intentions are, the white liberal comes to you as a fox. And even when it bares its teeth, you think it's smiling at you. That's why he was allied with the American Nazi Party. He said, at least they're honest. But the truth is that was such a tiny sect. And the craziest part is the American Nazi Party leader was assassinated for sitting down with Malcolm X. Malcolm X was assassinated for going after the leader of the American Muslim Brotherhood. Killed by their own people. And Martin Luther King was killed by the feds because they felt that they could not destroy him and I think he was pro-abortion because there's a lot of evidence that he was quite the philanderer. He probably was quite the participant in them back in those days. Because in some places it was still illegal for a black man to sleep with a white woman. That was his supposed favorite. Now, Booker T. Washington is the one that I was thinking of. Yes, he was too strong for them. Because he would have just allowed, if they had exposed him for his philandering, he would have apologized as a Christian man that he was and come clean. I truly believe that. I don't believe that they were able to blackmail him like they thought they were. Because they got all those photos of him, and then they tried to blackmail him with them. And then whenever he was like, whatever, tell the world. Then he was killed 2 days after the blackmail attempt. So that's why I believe they killed him. But Booker T. Washington was the guy's photo that I was trying to think of. And Yes. Oh, dang it. Now, these guys were actual believers in family. These guys were builders of their community. I don't get the left's favoritism with her when they preach that we're the racists. How do you guys get off saying we're the racists? Let's go back and read some more of her thoughts on life. Sanger argued that modern society had been too laissez-faire, respecting the personal liberty of the individual only in regard to the unrestricted and irresponsible bringing into the world of filth and poverty and overcrowding processions of infants, foredoomed to death or heritable disease. In other words, Sanger argued that feeble-minded people should not be granted the personal liberty to reproduce as much as normal people. Rather, she proposed the segregation and sterilization of feeble-minded groups. Specifically, she argued that every feeble-minded girl in her childbearing age needed to be segregated in order to prevent her from bearing imbecile children. Sanger also argued that the male defectives are no less dangerous, claiming that segregation of women would only handle part of the problem, and therefore the immediate sterilization of men was needed in order to ensure that parenthood is absolutely prohibited to the feeble-minded. This is literally the plan of the Danish and how they have those parental cognitive tests. Therefore, Sanger demonstrated clear objections to free abilities to reproduce in lesser than groups of society. She recognized the way in which birth control could help prevent population growth in feeble-minded groups. Moreover, Sanger was extremely important in establishing the link between birth control and eugenics, as she saw it as a productive means towards backing the ideas of then prominent eugenicists. She noted that eugenicists had been given proof that reckless spawning carries with it the seeds of destruction, and saw birth control as a solution for eugenicists to aid in reducing the population of feeble-minded citizens. Sanger claimed birth control is really the greatest and most truly eugenic method, and its adoption as part of the program of eugenics would immediately give a concrete and realistic power to the science. It is therefore clear that Sanger was a prominent figure in connecting a eugenics problem to the solution of birth control. However, Sanger's problematic viewpoints and stances surrounding birth control did not stop at eugenics targeted at poor people living in city slums. Sanger was also an important figure in linking birth control to reducing the population of African Americans. In Medical Apartheid, the dark history of medical experimentation on black Americans from colonial times to the present, Harriet Washington describes that while Sanger was a complex, passionate woman that shaped American reproductive policy by instigating the fall of the Comstock laws, pushing the developing of the birth control pill, and founding what we know today as Planned Parenthood, she did so in ways that blatantly harmed the black American population. Really? Did she? Specifically, do you see how even in how she's talking about her, she's still praising her? This is a black woman praising her, even though she knows that it did harm the black American population. The population, she didn't say the community. How many of those men and women were going to be somebody? How many of those men and women would have been congressmen? How many of those men and women would have been inventors, business owners, designers, fabricators, railwaymen? Specifically, Sanger's American Birth Control League closely collaborated with the Clinical Research Bureau to form the Birth Control Federation of America. In 1939, the BFCA quickly planned the Negro Project, a project that, while claiming to be established for the benefit of colored people, resulted in the formation of family planning centers that were found to be problematic for many reasons. First, these clinics were likely erected as experimental clinics aiming to find the best way to reduce or eliminate the black population in regions densely populated by African Americans. Additionally, these clinics appear to be motivated by the ability to test new birth control methods on less valuable populations. While Sanger was a key figure in running, demonstrating clear racial motivations in erecting these clinics, and took actions that would bias the medical field against African Americans for decades to come. While these claims of Sanger's personal poor motivations behind the clinics may at first seem far-fetched, Sanger's writings demonstrate that she was likely in agreement with the ideas of using eugenics on specifically African Americans to better the human race. Well, if we just kill them, won't it be better? Yeah, God's children. We just kill them. It'll be better for all of us. All of these birth control pills are, and the implants. And do you remember when they had the Yaz commercials all the time? It was about 15, 20 years ago, for about 5 years, 7 years. It sterilized 30% of the girls for life. Huge payout. The implant, on average, sterilizes 20% of the women for up to 3 years afterwards, and 10% permanently. All of this is evil. All of this is a way to get around sin. They think they can get away without the consequences. Only Jesus Christ washes away sin. Let's get back into her words. And she knew that she would have to fight in order to ensure she did not come across this way to the public. The way of, specifically wanting to use eugenics on African Americans to better the human race. She didn't want to come across that way to the public. Excuse me. In The Pivot of Civilization, Sanger spent several pages detailing an anecdote about a black feeble-minded girl whose uncontrolled reproduction resulted in 16 children, all of which either died at a young age or turned into criminals. Sanger clearly emphasized the race of the young girl, which therefore allowed her to generalize these negative traits of uncontrollable and unhealthy populations to all African Americans. In addition to this, Sanger seemingly understood how what she was doing would be perceived and interpreted by the public. Sanger wrote, "The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We do not want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it occurs to any of their more rebellious members." Sanger therefore clearly understood that only setting up these clinics in southern regions with black populations would be scrutinized and called out for what they truly were. So she sought to find ways to manipulate the public into trusting her clinic. For example, Sanger recruited the support of Adam Clayton Powell Jr. and Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. She also actively searched for a black doctor and social worker to join her team. Sanger then clearly knew that her writings, coupled with the suspicious concentration of clinics in an area with a large black population, would be questioned, requiring her to acquire trustworthy black society figures to support her cause. Despite her efforts to maintain public trust, however, many black Americans grew suspicious of Sanger's efforts. Many people began believing the Sanger was seeking to medically remove the African American population from the country, claiming that encouraging blacks to use birth control is comparable to trying to eliminate this group from society. In addition to this, a gender divide arose and prevailed in which men were much more likely to denounce birth control as genocide than women. In contrast, most black women embraced birth control. As we may expect, birth control had allowed many black women to have education and career options. So despite questionable activity of prominent figures like Sanger pushing birth control in their communities, these women were open to the option to delay motherhood in order to pursue their education and career. As many women today know, this is still a strong motivation to take birth control. Helps reduce the risk of having to sacrifice one's education and or career to take care of their children. Bingo, right here. So you don't sacrifice this. Don't sacrifice that. No. What does it say in Jeremiah 19:5? Burn your sons with fire for the burnt offerings unto Baal. Burn them with fire to Baal. That's what it says. That is what it says. Thank you. I think I've about beat to death Margaret Sanger tonight. I think I might hop on a different tangent, but I definitely think I have beat to death Margaret Sanger. I do not believe that she should be even in modern society. How in polite society did somebody who has killed over 50 million Americans brought up? How do you bring somebody up in polite society that killed 50 million Americans? That's higher than Mao, or equal to Stalin. 5 times what Hitler did. Five times what Hitler did. And she is praised. Here on this channel, we praise God and we condemn Satan and evil. And I thank you guys for watching. God bless you. I appreciate you guys sticking it out with me. Before we go, I will finish Jeremiah 19. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that this place shall no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. And I will make void the counsel of Judah and Jerusalem in this place, and I will cause them to fall by the sword before their enemies, and by the hands of them that seek their lives. And their carcasses will I give to be meat for the fowls of the heavens, and for the beasts of the earth. And I will make this city desolate and a hissing. Every one that passeth thereby shall be astonished and hiss because of all the plagues thereof. And I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters. And they shall eat every one the flesh of his friend in the siege, the straightness therewith their enemies, and that seek their lives shall straighten them. Then shall they break the bottle in the sight of the men that go with thee, and shalt say unto them, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, even so will I break this people and this city, as one breaketh the potter's vessel, that cannot be made whole again, and they shall bury them in Tophet, till there be no place to bury. Thus will I do unto this place, saith the Lord, and to the inhabitants thereof, and even to make this city as Tophet. And the houses of Jerusalem and the houses of the kings of Judah shall be defiled as the place of Tophet, because of all the houses upon whose roofs they have burned incense unto all the host of heaven, and have poured out drink offerings unto other gods. Then came Jeremiah from Tophet, whither the Lord had sent him to prophesy, and he stood in the court of the Lord's house, and said to all the people, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, Behold, I will bring upon this city and upon all her towns all the evil that I have pronounced against it, because they have hardened their necks, and they might not hear my words. We are 3 away from 100, guys, and I just want you guys to know that I love you, God loves you, and we just ask that he continues to guide us and to show us his word and how his word interacts with the world around us. Logging out.